plan today is to do some online audio engineering quizzes. I haven't taken these sorts of quizzes since I was in college. I don't know. Maybe it's just a fun test of your general knowledge of audio engineering. Maybe we'll learn something in the process. And I think it might be a good way just to get some more interaction in chat. So rather than you just watching as I talk about some new toy that I bought, we could do something a little more interactive. Pat says, I'm prepared to look like an idiot answering these. Yeah, we'll at least learn from it. Definitely fail this test. In the chat, from who's here, how about how we just get like a, who's self-taught? Who went to school for audio? Yeah, say either of those things in the chat. Lots of self-taught here. I'm not self-taught. It's always started, but then I got very frustrated and then spent $20,000 to get a good foundation of knowledge, and then continuing to learn every day is the goal. That's the lifestyle. True wisdom exists in knowing that you know nothing. I like that. If you know nothing about a topic, you might spend the first day learning about it and you think you know a lot about it. And then if you keep learning, you realize that after 10 years, you still know nothing about that topic. You gotta be willing to just continually learn, relearn, and you really don't know what you don't know. Always assume that you don't know everything about the topic and be willing to learn and have a good time. Oh yeah, the other topic for today is there's a Reaper script for linking track parameters, like linking effects parameters across tracks. That is pretty good. I only learned about it this week. So someone asked, and I hadn't looked for a script like that in a while. It's pretty slick. So we're going to check that out. All right. So a little bit of news that caught my attention this week. Nugen Audio releases Aligner audio alignment plugin designed to streamline your audio production workflow, providing you with effortless and precise audio alignment. When using more than one microphone to record a sound source, you might encounter phase or polarity issues between different tracks. This could be due to mic distance or any other factor which causes the audio to reach one track before the other. Often this is almost imperceptible, but in many cases it can result in the recording sounding thin or weak. Aligner is an automatic phase and polarity alignment tool designed to speed up the daily workflow of audio engineers. What I'd like to know if this can continually align multiple tracks or if it's only doing it once.
Aligner is an automatic phase and polarity alignment tool. You might use it if you have a multi-mic recording where the microphones are different distances from the source, or where the polarity of one microphone is reversed. You might also use it to ensure a microphone signal and a DI signal are lined up correctly.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. It's not super advanced. It seems like it just kind of can detect the time delay. Or align the waveforms better than manual. I bring this up because it seems like a helpful tool. The regular price is $49 US, currently $29. You can get that at Plugin Boutique. And yeah, if that's something that if you spend a lot of time on, like drums, you got eight mics on the drums, you want to align those automatically. Seems like a good tool for that. That's about it. I'm not going to download it. I'm not going to play with it today. Yeah, so that was Nugen Audio Aligner. Reaper.blog/plugin boutique. That will redirect with my link. Reaper 680 came out this week. Did you guys update? Did you enjoy the new features? Did you see the video I made on the topic? The video did pretty well. You got lots of comments, which is nice. 12,500 views on that video. Not bad. That update came out on the Saturday after the last stream. That on Monday morning and published it by 1 o'clock, I think, which is not the normal time for a video, but yeah. Good stuff in that update. Being able to drag tracks around, change the order without accidentally creating folders has been very nice. Folder processing. A lot of people are saying that is like way better. They're using heavy processing, lots of delay, all that sort of stuff. Is just like people had projects that wouldn't run before and now they will run well. So that's really nice to see. Muted? I'm not muted. Oh, there's my bot doing its thing. God damn it. I programmed that to check. Since my last stream, I put out a video on the Boz Digital Recoil, which is just a stream clip. I put out a video on Acon Digital's Deverberate 3, which I keep calling De-Reverberate, which was a clip from last week's stream. And then yesterday, I put out the stream recap video, which had a ton of the semi-modular Moog Mavis jam, lots of delay pedal and reverb pedal, and Rainbow Machine messing around with that EQ analyzer, EQ curve analyzer, I think. Yeah, I have a Mavis. We played with it last week and we built it a few weeks ago. I have a video published May 17th where we set that up. There's some rumors about Reaper 7 version. Haven't followed Reaper news for a couple of years. Well, to catch up on Reaper news, I've got the What's New in Reaper series. There's a big playlist going all the way back to Reaper 5. You can always look at the changelog at reaper.fm/download-old.php, and that will have the full changelog. You can search for certain words. Reaper 7 rumors. There are a couple things changing that I guess could probably talk about a little bit. I don't know when it's happening, but in testing right now, things that I think are being held on for Reaper 7. The actions for changing mouse modifiers within actions, there's a huge list, it's like 200 items in the action list. Those will be taken out and swapped for a different sort of system for kind of like different presets of mouse modifiers that you can just change, like A, B, C, D. That should simplify things, but that's probably going to break a few custom actions. The other thing that I know is happening is changing with take system and comping, and that stuff right now is really, really sweet. So you should definitely check that stuff out in the pre-releases if you want to try that out for now. But other than that, they're probably waiting on big changes to the theming, and I'm not sure what that will be. If White Tie's new sort of modular thing will be like the new theme and everyone just builds their own theme, or if there's some new thing. But I haven't seen anything about like vector graphics, disconnecting from the ancient Microsoft stuff. It could be this summer. It could be a year from now. There's no real knowing when it's going to happen. I think we'll have to pay for a few, new version number. Hope Justin is a fair. Yeah, I mean, it's been $60 for as long as I can remember. I think every version has been $60. So I think that's more than fair. You get many years out of it. I'd be happy spending $60 a year for that, no problem. A lot of people asking about immersive audio and Atmos and stuff like that. I don't know if that stuff is going to last. I don't know. It seems like a very niche thing. Okay, so let's get into some audio engineering quizzes. I found this one on the Hoffa website. They have an academy for audio engineering and music production. You might know them from their software for creating DDPs, CD disk images. All right, so the first question is, what does the abbreviation DAW stand for? Dynamic Audio Wire, Dolby Atmos Workshop, Digital Audio Window, Digital Audio Workstation. Put it in the chat if you know it. This is an engagement farm. We are tricking YouTube into seeing that this is a very active stream, and lots of people will come in and it'll promote the video and all this stuff. Digital Audio Workstation. Moving on. A DAW is used to record and edit audio on a computer. In modern DAWs, all steps of music production are possible, from songwriting, recording, and mixing to mastering. Good. Which type of analog signal transmission using cables is less susceptible to interference? Serial, balanced, parallel, unbalanced. All right, chat if you know this one. Balance, 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 balance. It's balanced. With balanced signal transmission, two signals are transmitted with equal impedance to ground. At the receiver, one signal is subtracted from the other, which cancels out interference. Among the cables used for balanced transmission are, in particular, XLR and patch cables, also stereo jacks. Unbalanced cable has a signal and a shield, and a balanced cable has a signal hot, a signal cold, and shield. The hot and cold are combined. Whatever is the same gets boosted, amplified. Whatever is different, which should just be noise, picked up on one wire or the other, and that gets subtracted. What's the difference between mono and stereo? Stereo signals are used in the hi-fi sector. Mono signals are used on the radio. Mono is the difference of stereo. In contrast to stereo, a mono signal cannot reproduce a reverb. A stereo signal usually consists of two channels, a mono signal and one channel. Stereo is 6 dB louder than mono. So we're going with option number 4. Mono consists of only one channel. This means all audio information is transmitted via this one channel. As a result, even on a stereo system, the signals on both speakers are identical. A stereo signal consists of two or more different channels that can contain different audio information. Depending on the level and the panning, the result is a wide, spacious sound. Pure mono mixes have no stereo width, as the left and right positioning with one channel is not possible. In a stereo mix, a mono signal can be positioned in the mix via panning. I see a lot of people get confused by mono and stereo if they're self-taught, because you can have a one-channel signal going to both speakers, but if it's not different at all, it's mono. I also see a lot of people will duplicate a mono signal, pan that left and right, and expect a difference. That's really the same. Maybe louder. How many semitone steps are in an octave? 4, 8, 9, 11, or 12? All right, unanimously, that's going to be a 12. An octave contains 12 semitones. The initial and final notes have the same number, same name, C1 and C2, but a different pitch. The position and number of semitones can be visualized on a keyboard. So they're not even talking about frequency or anything like that. Which audio engineering tool is used to reduce the dynamic range of a signal? Brick wall limiter, gate, equalizer, or expander? How's that an engineering question? I think it's all related. Got 2 votes for limiter, 4 votes for limiter. So we're going with limiter because a gate and expander, very similar devices, they expand the dynamic range. They turn down quiet signals. And an equalizer doesn't affect dynamic range at all. Brick wall limiter limits the level of the input signal to the selected value. This way, louder sections are attenuated, thus limiting the dynamic range. Which sample rate is commonly used by film productions? 44.1, 48, 88.2, and 96. What's the movie standard? I feel like this one might be tricky because I know what the standard is, but I know what filmmakers tend to use as well. So they're a little different. They're showing cameras here. So what's the sample rate of the camera? Is going to be 48K. The common sample rate for film productions is 48 kilohertz. This is the case for both cinema and DVD productions. The CD standard is the sample rate of 44.1 kilohertz, which is why most audio productions are converted to 44.1 kilohertz during mastering. Higher sample rates, 88.2 and higher, are still quite uncommon. I don't know if that's uncommon. It really depends on what you're recording. I think you can optimize for what you're recording. Higher sample rates, especially if you're going to play it back at half speed. Maybe it's an old quiz. But yeah, 48K. I switched to 48K for everything about 2 or 3 years ago, and I've been happy with that. Sounds a little bit better than 44.1. Doesn't take up twice as much space like 88.2. Which type of microphone usually covers the largest frequency range? So very general question. Condenser microphone, dynamic microphone, piezo microphone, carbon microphone. Condenser, that's the largest frequency range. Condenser microphones have the advantage that they can reproduce a linear frequency response that results in less coloration of the sound. However, they are not as sturdy as a dynamic microphone and usually need an external power supply, 48-volt phantom power. Where is the off axis of a microphone with a cardioid polar pattern? 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 125 degrees, 180 degrees, or 360 degrees. This may be a tricky one if you've never seen a polar pattern graph. So we got 1 vote for 90, 1 for 180, 2 for 180, 3 for 180. I would also go with 180 for this. So if we've got a mic, we've got a heart shape, 3D heart shape in front of the microphone. Think of it as like a balloon, and then you stick your finger in the back, and it sort of makes this indent in the back. That is at, so 0 degrees is directly in front. 90 would be this way or this way, and 180 would be directly behind the microphone. That is the dead spot on a cardioid microphone. And all other microphone polar patterns vary in that regard. 180 is what we're going to choose for this. Correct. And there's the polar pattern chart or graph or chart, I guess it would be called, where we've got 0 in front, and then we've got 90-degree angles to the sides and 180 behind. The cardioid polar pattern is designed to pick up sound mainly from the front. The most masking happens at 180 degrees. Due to this directional effect, it is commonly used for directed signals, example vocals. It's weird because when miking a source, you usually hear the 90-degree orientation called off-axis. Really, anything that's not directly in front would be off-axis. But yeah, like the very back is like the most, is like the null point, you would call it, with a ribbon mic. Let's say we got this mic here, which is a multi-pattern mic, condenser mic. If it's a figure 8 pattern, we've got like a balloon in the front and a balloon in the back, and it's very dead in the center, like around where this ring is. Remember, it's 3D, not like just a flat plane. And sometimes these graph things might make you forget that it's like in all directions, horizontally and vertically. Side address condenser in cardioid pattern, the very back is the deadest spot. But if you're here or here, here, anywhere other than the exact center at the back, that's where it will still pick up a lot of sound. And then the other polar patterns, they might have a spot of sensitivity directly behind, but there's this circle of insensitivity or null right around that, which is kind of weird, like the supercardioid patterns, things like that. Steven said, to make it even more confusing, supercardioid and hypercardioid don't have their largest off-axis response in the back. They got a little bubble back there. Is glass mastering necessary for the production of a vinyl record? Yes, no, or in special cases? I'm going to say no. I'm pretty sure that glass mastering is a CD production technique. If it's not just a red herring trick question, I'm going to say no. Correct. Glass mastering is necessary for CD, DVD, and Blu-ray manufacturing, where the glass master serves as a template for replication. The master is produced in a process similar to burning a CD using laser technology under optimized conditions. Vinyl records are made from a hard lacquer master disc. Yeah, that's what I thought. I did remember hearing, it's sort of the difference between duplication and replication. Duplication is basically what you can do at home with a CD burner, taking one disc that was burned and you're making copies of it. Replication, they actually kind of stamp that using a piece of glass into the plastic distribution discs. It's kind of an old thing, but definitely something you wouldn't learn on your own, I think. What is dithering? Dithering is unwanted noise that occurs when audio signals are digitized. Dithering is a special noise reduction method. Dithering adds noise to the signal to minimize quantization errors. It's number 3. Dithering is mainly used in mastering. Noise is added to the signal to compensate for quantization or rounding errors that occur during bit reduction. Without dithering, audible distortions can occur during quiet sections of a song. It's very rare that you hear dither or you hear quantization noise, but it is something that you just do by default. For the mastering show, we made this meme, said just dither it, because it's like when in doubt, add dither, because it's super unlikely you're going to hear it. But if you're going from 24-bit to 16-bit, 32-bit to 16-bit, you should add dither just so that your signal is not the least significant thing which gets truncated, which gets taken out of the rendered file. By adding in this very low-level dither noise, it keeps your signal, it makes it more significant, and then those least significant bits don't get taken out. What is the purpose of a diffuser? All right, so we're not talking about digital audio anymore, talking about acoustics. Diffusers absorb sound waves. Diffusers reflect sound waves in different directions. Diffusers lead to a balanced frequency response in mixes. Diffusers separate good low frequencies from bad ones. Reflect sounds in different directions. Number 2, number 2, number 2, number 2, number 2. Yeah, so what's an example of a diffuser? You can see I've got 8 of them behind me. And those are different from absorbers, which you can see here. So this is a broadband absorber. Above me, I've got another one. In the corners, I have some diffusers. These are 3-dimensional acoustic panels that scatter the sound. And technically, some of the sound waves kind of get trapped in the little crevices, and because these pillars are different depths, they scatter the sound in different directions. They are effective in reducing reverb time without destroying the frequency response. So it's very natural control, I find. All right, so we're going with number 2 for the answer. Does the pet bed count as an absorber? Probably minimally. Probably the cat itself does more. If it was only kind of scattering it and it didn't absorb at all, then the reverb time would be the same, it's just more diffuse. If you can afford diffusers, I would highly recommend them. How far apart should the microphone capsules in an ORTF setup be? 15 centimeters, 17 centimeters, 33.3 centimeters, or 52 centimeters? All right, self-taught guys, what's the answer here? Do you even know what ORTF is? Let me grab some microphones and see if I can demo this. I can't find my pencil condensers, so we'll have to use 57 clones. ORTF is a stereo arrangement, usually like this, where we've got 2 microphones at like a 90 or 120 degree angle crossed to give you a left and a right. The actual distance, 52 centimeters. Definitely wrong. That's way too far apart. That's not going to work. 15 centimeters, 17 centimeters. I would, if I had to guess, 17. Oh, you cheated. It's 17. I would say 17. Yeah. ORTF is a special stereo microphone technique. It features 2 microphones with cardioid polar pattern at a distance of 17 centimeters and an opening angle of 110 degrees. I said 90 to 120. 110's right in the middle there. ORTF is derived from the French radio, Office of Radio Diffusion Television in French. So that's what ORTF stands for. Why are the Zoom mics so close? I guess the smaller the mic, the more closer they can be. Why would we use that? ORTF is a very sort of natural sounding stereo positioning. It's not super wide, like an AB or spaced pair. So ORTF is like this. XY is like this. Capsule is very close. AB is like this. Well, probably like overheads and like arms distance apart, maybe 6 feet apart. MS would be like this. That's basically all of them. So it's wider than XY, where the capsules are really close together. Yeah, Zoom recorders usually have XY pattern. Some of them do have a way to angle them out, so it's closer to our ORTF. It's wider than XY, which can sound kind of mono. It's narrower than an AB. I find it's very natural sound. There's a good center image, but it's mostly like kind of spacious. And that 17 centimeters is kind of similar to like ears distance apart, so it sounds pretty natural to us. I like it for acoustic guitars, any sort of ambience recording, things like that. I like it a lot. XY is a little too mono for me, and AB is like there's not any mono in there at all. There's other stereo techniques that will use mics in like an AB position where it's two mics, usually two omnidirectional mics at 180 degrees to each other, facing away from the sound source. And then there's like a barrier between. So it's called baffled omni. The correlation meter shows a value of -1. What does that mean? There is no signal. The signal is mono. One of the channels is out of phase, or the signal is distorted. The correlation meter, I mean, it says right there, one of the channels is out of phase. So when it's at 0, that's a mono signal. Both signals are the same. +1 is like a strongly different signal, but not out of phase. Am I saying that right? Now I'm confused. I almost never pay attention to the plus signal. It's always like, if it goes below 0, then I care. So yeah, answer is number 3. Correlation meter provides information about the phase relationships of stereo signals and thus about the stereo width. If a signal is mono, i.e. the same signal is present in the left and right channel, the meter shows a correlation of 1. If both signals are completely uncorrelated, the meter shows 0. If the signal on one channel is out of phase, the meter shows -1. This is usually a fault that has been caused by defective cables, for example. So if it's -1, that's a phase inversion. Uncorrelated means the signals are completely different. Moving on, the LFO controls a VCA. What kind of sound does that produce? Tremolo, vibrato, wah-wah, or reverb? An LFO, low-frequency oscillator, that's a waveform going up and down, a control signal applied to a VCA, voltage-controlled amplifier. If we are changing amplification with an LFO, the effect is tremolo is an amplitude modulation, and vibrato is a pitch modulation. The resulting level differences are controlled by rapid swelling and decaying of the signal. Vibrato, on the other hand, is difference in pitch. Vibrato is what's on a guitar. It bends the strings up and down, tightening them or loosening them, changes in pitch, where tremolo is volume control. Oh, okay, there's a sound example in this one. Please use headphones or studio monitors to evaluate the sound. So put the volume all the way up. What are the differences between the original and the master? Okay, original sound.
She's the queen of the night, no question, that's right. Every single song tells a story that we know from life. They lift you up and they can give you hope. She's a one of a kind. She got the voice. She's the queen of the night, no question, that's right. Every single song tells a story that we know from life. They lift you up and they can give you hope. She's a one of a kind. She got the voice.
Going back to the original because I wasn't paying attention.
The queen of the night, no question, that's right. Every single song tells a story that we know from life. They lift you up and they can give you hope. She's a one of
All right, unless I'm fooled, I would guess that it's the first one. On the master, bass is boosted, stereo reverb is added, and loudness was maximized. Master original are exactly the same as the second option. Third option, the master has a louder low end and a significantly higher LUFS value. An MS tool was used on the master and has a significantly lower LUFS value. The master has a quieter low end and a limiter and MS tool were used. The master has a louder low end and a limiter and MS tool were used. There's definitely more reverb on it. Louder low end, limiter, MS tool were used. I mean, it's hard to say. Like if there's reverb there and you use an MS tool, it's going to change the balance of the reverb. So it could be that.
She's the queen of the night, no question, that's right. She's the queen of the night, no question, that's right. Every single song tells a story that we know. Tells a story that we know from life.
I'm not going to say that they're exactly the same. My guess here in my speakers, a little more bass and there's reverb. Yeah, volume doesn't seem drastically different. I mean, I could cheat and put it on my LUFS meter.
She's the queen of the night, no question, that's right. Every single song tells a story that we know from life. They lift you
Minus 19.
no question, that's right. Every single song tells a story that we know from life. They lift you up and they can give you hope. She's a woman.
Pretty similar. Significantly higher, significantly lower. Limiter MS tool were used. Do we have an agreement on the answer for this one? This one is the toughest. This is the first one that's actually like we have to think hard. I feel like there was reverb added, but then the loudness was not really different. I'm going to go with the last option here. Louder low end, there's a limiter and MS tool. Hey, we got it. Nice. After limiting, the volume was reduced to allow an objective comparison of the two takes. So the LUFS value is almost the same. Okay, the meter showed me that they're almost exactly the same. Shelving EQ was used to boost the low frequencies by 2.5 dB of 125 Hertz. MS compressor was used to compress and enhance the side signal. All right. That one was tough. I thought it was more reverb. That was the main thing that caught my attention on the vocal. But it was like, it was just MS compression bringing out more reverb. All right. That was the last question. Do we enjoy that, guys? Was that fun? Should we do another? I'm okay with doing more. This one is from the Blackbird Academy. This is a live sound skills quiz, they call it. All right, latency refers to the potential voltage of the system, a time delay between audio devices input and output, inactivity in the audio input signal to output ratio, resistance on the system. Pretty sure there's going to be a B. And it automatically goes to the next question. So we don't even find out if it is correct until the end, I think. The speed of sound is dependent on temperature. True or false? I'm inclined to think that everything affects sound. Sea level, time of day, temperature. I'm going to say true. Which company is not a manufacturer of live mixing consoles? Soundcraft, Yamaha, Midas, Lab Gruppen. It's got to be D, whatever D is. I'm pretty sure there's live consoles from these companies. But then it could be really high-end stuff that I've never heard of. On an equalizer, the letter Q refers to bandwidth, quad frequency, quartz frequency, queasy frequency. Everyone agrees on A. We've heard of bandwidth. Everything else seems made up. We're going with A. A 200-watt power amplifier is twice as loud as a 100-watt amplifier. True or false? We're talking about volume. Volume is not linear. I don't know what the actual difference would be in sound, but yeah, I know that it's not linear. We can't just multiply by 2. U stands for vertebral unit, volume unit, vertical unit, variable unit. B, volume unit, So far, these are pretty easy. Which of the following frequencies would sound highest in pitch? 500 hertz, 1000 hertz, 2000 hertz, 4000 hertz. Higher pitch, higher frequency, D. Milli, as in millisecond, refers to 1 millionth, 1000th, 100th, 1 metric ton. 1000th. On a mixing console, post-fader sends are typically used for effects processors, in-ear monitors, compressor insert send returns, noise gate insert send returns. So this one's a little trickier. Who has done live mixing before? Now let's talk about pre-fader and post-fader sends. So post-fader sends are after the fader. So if I've got a mixing console, I've got to send, let's say, to a reverb, and my track fader's turned down, nothing's going to come out of that track to the reverb. If I turn this up, then I start to hear it. If it's a pre-fader send, the send is independent of the volume fader. And the volume fader, if you don't know, controls how much of the main mix you're going to hear that signal. On a mixing console, effects makes sense. Compressor send and return inserts, not actually a send. And noise gate insert send returns, not actually a send. Those are inserts are plugged in line, in series in the channel. So we're going to go with effects processors. You wouldn't want to use B because you usually want independent control of each signal. Definitely wouldn't use a post-fader send on a click track, for example. I think we're kind of split here, but I'm going to go with A as the answer for this one. The letters DI in reference to an impedance matching device are an abbreviation for direct injection, defective interfering, document index, deterioration index. Even if you're self-taught, you might know this one. Yeah, direct injection. Why do they call it that? That's what I would like to know. This one doesn't have an explanation after you answer each one. Direct injection, that's a DI box. That's what DI stands for in DI box. Which type of audio signal has the most voltage? Line level, mic level, instrument level, speaker level. Direct input was taken? Yeah. Speaker level, definitely speaker level. Which of the following is not digital audio transmission format? MADI, Dante, AES 550, AES EBU, or Verona? Two of these I haven't heard of. I don't actually know this one. I've never heard that one. MADI is a digital, Dante is digital, AES EBU is digital. That's basically SPDIF with an XLR connector. Verona sounds made up. AES, I think there's a lot of AES standards. We're going to vote for E. Proximity effect is a characteristic inherent in what type of microphones? Condenser, directional, non-directional, and vintage. What is proximity effect? Proximity effect is the difference in low frequencies when you're talking really close versus talking over here. This microphone has proximity effect, but other microphones don't. Is it because it's a condenser microphone? Is it because it's a dynamic microphone? It's polar pattern. Heard it referred to dynamic mics, so it's a B. Yeah, it's like low mids, bass. Closer to the mic, you hear more low end. Yeah, we're going to go with directional. So directional just means like supercardioid, hypercardioid, cardioid, figure eight, anything other than omnidirectional is going to have proximity effect. Downstage refers to front of stage, back of stage, off stage, proscenium wall. I don't even know what that means. But downstage is the front or the back or off. And I believe this is one that's always been confusing to me whenever I learned it. I think I learned this in high school originally, but definitely came up in the live sound classes. I believe downstage means moving towards the front. Reverb effects, the MIDI burning up, steel drum performer technique. Yeah, upstage, downstage, stage left and stage right, we're confusing because it's flipped perspective. Spatial positioning of sound between left and right. That's our answer there. The 0.1 in 5.1 system refers to the center channel, the subwoofer, the left rear channel, or the right rear channel. The subwoofer, answer B, is the 0.1 in 5.1. LFE is correct as well. Low frequency effect, yeah. When referring to acoustics, RT60 is a measure of resistance time, reactance time, recording time, or reverb time. Self-taught home studio musicians, have you heard the term RT60 before? Interesting. Okay, so RT60 is the reverb time of a room. If you clap your hands and it takes 1 second for the sound to decay by 60 decibels, that's your reverb time. So it takes 1 second to drop 60 decibels, RT60. So that's your reverb time. It's a good term to know. So like a reverb can extend past, past that time, but that's like where we measure decay of a room. For a control room, we want to have that like down to 0.3 or something like that. So reverb time, that's the correct answer. A common design for a high frequency loudspeaker is a crossover driver, a full range driver, compression driver, or a wedge driver. High frequency loudspeaker is a crossover driver, full range driver, compression driver, a wedge driver. All right, so wedge driver, that's golf. Compression driver, that might be a term that I don't know, but I think that's also fake. I don't know. Crossover, I always think of as a separate component. And then full range driver is a single speaker doing all of the sound. So I know it's not B. Crossover separates the frequencies from your woofer and your tweeter. I would expect to see tweeter here, right? Compression driver. Should we cheat? Should we look it up? Steven's saying C, I think. We got an A. Andy, you're just voting for all of them now. Compression driver. That looks right. I just didn't know that term. We should at least learn about it. Compression driver is a specialized diaphragm loudspeaker which generates the sound in a horn loudspeaker. It's attached to an acoustic horn, a widening duct that serves to radiate the sound efficiently into the air. It works in a compression mode. The area of the loudspeaker diaphragm is significantly larger than the throat aperture of the horn, so that it provides high sound pressures. Horn-loaded compression drivers. Now I remember hearing that term. Horn-loaded compression drivers can achieve very high efficiencies, around 10 times the efficiency of direct radiating cone loudspeakers. They're used in mid-range and tweeter drivers in high-power sound reinforcement loudspeakers and in reflex or folded horn loudspeakers in megaphones and public address systems. I always think of these as sounding like really harsh. You know? This is a live sound quiz. I'm surprised there are not more live sound things. Interesting. Yeah, we're learning stuff. Davy, you got 3 books on recording, not read any of them yet. Yeah, they are boring, so I don't blame you. But they're also expensive, so you should at least read them once and then pass them on to a student that needs them. On a mixer, to bus or bus a signal means to move equalization points on a channel, transport speaker level signals to noise gates, compressors, and limiters, transfer the audio signal from digital hardware to analog hardware, route audio signals to a common destination. To bus or bus a signal means to route audio signals to a common destination. On a mixing console, PFL stands for post-fader listen, pretty full level, pre-fader listen, pre-filter listen. We got a few people saying C on this one, pre-fader listen. So this is C, it's pre-fader listen. This is for live consoles. You would see this. Pre-fader listen picks up the signal before it hits the fader, and you can listen to that directly in headphones without altering the main mix. So pre-fader listen, that's actually a trick we can do in Reaper. Post-fader listen would be the normal solo, essentially, but that would affect your main mix. You don't want to do that. Standard nominal level for professional audio equipment is plus 4 dBu, minus 10 dBV, plus 48 V, minus 60 dBV, plus 4 dBu, or minus 10 dBV. We got a couple A and B. We're going to say, I'm leaning towards A. Everyone agree? A. As air temperature increases, the speed of sound also increases. True or false? As air temperature increases, the speed of sound increases. Does sound travel further on a hot day? I'm going to say false. Density increases, so speed of sound decreases. There's more resistance. Colder means slower moving particles. Sound is faster in a liquid or solid, denser materials. True. Air is thick, hot, or cold. Yeah, sound moves faster in denser materials. So if temperature increases the density of the air, it should move faster. I always think of it moving further. In a hot day, it doesn't. Or does it? I know when it's snowing, it's quieter. It blocks out a lot of the environmental noise. Techno is better in a hot, sweaty club. All right, we're going to go with A, true. I'm 50-50 on this one. I don't know. A loudspeaker voice coil is moved by what property of physics? Electromagnetic induction, refraction, diffusive induction, absorptive imparting. A voice coil is moved by what property of physics? Yeah, electromagnet. Circuit wiring of 4 8-ohm loudspeakers in parallel has a total impedance of, god damn it, 8 ohm, 2 ohm, 4 ohm, 16 ohm. 4 loudspeakers in parallel. So parallel divides it by 2, right? Divides it by 2. So 8 4 ohm loudspeakers would be 2 ohm total impedance. If it was in series, well, it wouldn't be 16 either. If they were in series, it would add up. So 2. Wiring 2 8-ohm monitor wedges in parallel will yield a total impedance of 2 8-ohm wedges in parallel will have an impedance of 4. Right? We all agree? 4 ohm, 8 ohm, 6 ohm, or 16 ohm. In series, it would be 16. Each one is 8 ohms. So together, it would still be 8. A Shure SM57 has what type of polar pattern? Omnidirectional, cardioid, hypercardioid, or supercardioid? Yeah, the impedance stuff, you don't use it every day. You think about it when you buy a new guitar cabinet, and that's about it. So Shure SM57 has what type of polar pattern? Omni, cardioid, hypercardioid, or supercardioid? It's the totally standard, boring, basic dynamic mic with a cardioid pattern. The most commonly used microphone transducer type in live sound: carbon microphone, dynamic microphone, ribbon microphone, condenser microphone. Yeah, dynamic microphone is most commonly used for live because you need something that's rugged, something that can take a beating, something that's simple to use and position and will last. So it's not uncommon to use condenser microphones for live, but dynamic microphones you're going to see in most situations, pretty much other than like the overhead mics. Maybe the lead vocal will get a condenser as well. But yeah, ribbons, very rare. Carbon microphones, never. A device which separates the frequency spectrum of the input signal into low, medium, and high frequencies for a PA system is a spectrum analyzer, a real-time frequency generator, a crossover, or a compressor or limiter. Splitting signals into low, medium, high is done by crossover. A common use for a 1/3 octave graphic EQ is equalizing the bass guitar in the front of house mix, providing a flat frequency response for the former isolator, adjusting the overall tone of the sound system, reducing the octave brightness of the graphics in an LED wall. What's a 3rd octave graphic EQ? That's the real question here. Oh, like the 31 band. Oh. It's just frequencies every 3rd octave, or one slider for every 3rd of an octave. Okay. It's like the 31 band graphic EQ. That's the overall tone of the sound system. Horizontal and vertical dispersion refers to horns, woofers, subwoofers, mid-range cone drivers. Subwoofers are like omnidirectional. They're always cone speakers. Woofers, again, basically the same. Horns actually have a shape. They're a rectangular shape usually, right? So I'm going to go with A on this. So a horn, horn driver, it's a wide dispersion. Those horns, they're directional. Famous Cleveland radio DJ Alan Freed was the man who coined the phrase, "Oh yeah, don't touch that dial, tunage, or rock and roll." This is one of those audio engineering school trivia things that you got to keep in your head that means nothing. You think it's B? I think it's actually D. I think it's D. I think he invented the term rock and roll. All right, awesome. We just need a couple more things to send your results. 97 out of 100. See the correct answers. Or did we... It's not showing me which ones I got wrong. Or right. It was rock and roll. Overall tone of the sound system. Crossover, dynamic mic. 2 8-ohm wedges will be 4 ohms. That's the one we got wrong. That was the... So we got tricked by the trick question. We should have went with our gut on that one. I think that was the only one we got wrong. Like 4 8-ohm loudspeakers. We said that was 2, but then why did we change our thinking for the second one? It made sense when we said it. As air temperature increases, the speed of sound also increases. The statement is true. Maybe we should stop for doing a Q&A for a bit. And we'll come back to another thing. I should probably eat too, yeah. Not that I have anything ready to eat. Another kitchen stream. I'm trying to think of what I even have available. I have already eaten today. I stopped doing intermittent fasting after about 3 years. And I'm undecided on how that's going. It's been about a week. I think I started I started eating breakfast in the morning at 9:30. No, not at 9:30. Obviously, it's not helping my brain. Last Thursday was the first time I ate breakfast in the morning for the past 3 years. I don't think it's helped with productivity or mental clarity or anything like that. I'm just hungry all day now. I'm still not eating past 7 p.m. But I've eaten some apple, some orange, and a donut today. I've had 2 coffees. I am hungry now, but it used to be, it was just easy. Like I was already not eating breakfast most of the time. And then this idea of intermittent fasting, I saw videos about it and I'm like, oh, okay. That sounds good. And I'm already not eating until 11 anyways. So I'll just do that. And it did help with losing weight. I lost like 12 pounds pretty quickly, even without even doing exercise. So for me, it's a great way of managing my weight. The main thing is really just not eating those calories after 7 p.m. This month, it's been really hard for me to keep up with doing workouts like I normally do. And my workout is it's like a 6-minute workout. 1 meal a day. Yeah. I don't know if I could do 1 meal a day while cooking for 3 other people. 3 meals. That's not good for me. Not eating in the evening after dinner is like the main thing that's helped me keep weight off. Let me look for some food. I don't know if we should do another quiz. I'm having fun. I don't know if this is gonna make a good YouTube video. Let's do another. Why not? And then we'll do some Reaper related stuff. Audio Engineering 101. This is from RutledgeTextbooks.com. Audio Engineering 101 textbook. I say let's start with chapter 3. 20 hertz to 200 hertz is often described as option 1, big, fat, small, or both A and B. Describing the sound. Got a couple votes for number 4. How long is the exam? This is 12 questions. There's a final exam. I want to do that one. For big, fat, sure, that describes low frequencies. A low cut or high pass filter rolls off low frequencies, rolls off high frequencies, is great for bass. Rolls off low frequencies. Number 1. Question 3. Boosting the high frequency range makes a sound darker, bigger, fatter, or brighter. 4. A parametric equalizer has these controls: frequency, amplitude, slope, and all of these. Slope is not a very common name. I feel like we're being tricked with this one. This is from chapter 3. It's not really level 3. I don't know what the chapter is. Like, I feel frequency, that's 100% right. Amplitude, more likely to see that called gain. Slope, a lot less commonly used than Q. Choose all of these, we might be right. Slope would be, yeah, for filters. Everyone's saying 4. We're going to go with 4. All right. If a sound is muddy, it is likely to have too much of this frequency range: low, high, treble, or upper mids. Upper mids, mids. Low mids is what I'd say, not upper mids. Low. I would just go with low. So option 1. EQ slope is referred to as effects, gain, Q, or mid-range. All right, so I already kind of said this in the previous question. Slope isn't a common term. I might describe it, but it's not a term you would see on an EQ too often, if ever. Definitely Q, though. Q, or quality, is the bandwidth or slope. Frequencies below 80 hertz are known as subs, mids, highs, treble. Come on, this is too easy. Give me a trick question, something we have to think about. Frequency range around 1.5 kilohertz is often described with aggressive terms like edge, bite, and crunch. All right, so this is a little bit better. 1.5 kilohertz, that's like right in the middle. That's mid frequencies. A thin sound would likely have a lot of bass, treble, subs, or low mids. Thin would have a lot of treble. A great way to clear up a mix is to add bass, add treble, use subtractive equalization, add more instruments. Subtractive equalization to clear up a mix, yeah. If a sound lacks lows, it may be described as small, bright, thin, or all of the above. Yeah, so this chapter seems to be all about EQ and describing sounds. All of the above. Increasing the amplitude of a frequency is known as cut, boost, Q, or none of the above. Boost. 12 out of 12. Okay. That was chapter 3. That was all EQ. Should we jump ahead to do the next one? Go right to the final exam. Final. Ready for the exam. I don't know if the exam is timed. We're already cheating. It's a committee answering it. I'm still chewing. I shouldn't have done that. The average human ear can hear what range of frequencies? 1 kilohertz to 2 kilohertz, 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, 20 hertz to 2 kilohertz, 50 hertz to 50 kilohertz. This is, of course, 20 to 20. That's the range of human hearing. Helps identify the size of a space, the wash that is left over from a sound. Direct sound, early reflection, panning, and reverberation. Helps identify the sound of a space. Makes me think early reflection. It's the wash that is left over from a sound. Wash is definitely reverberation. Early reflections is it's definitely a part of identifying the size of a space, but that's a little bit more about positioning. If you hear a reflection from the left first, then you're closer to a wall. And also like the sort of brightness of that and the intensity of that and stuff like that. So this is used to amplify a mic signal, low cut, high cut, preamp, or phase flip. So this is, of course, preamp. Preamp is used to amplify a mic signal. This waveform characteristic is divided into even and odds. It is known as timbre, harmonics, amplitude, frequency, and velocity. Odd and even harmonics, the timbre of a sound. This transducer element type is often used in live sound and is great for loud things. Condenser, ribbon, cardioid, or dynamic. 4, 4, 4. Yeah, we know because the last two quizzes have had this basic question here. Dynamic mics for live sound. That's the trope. According to the Nyquist theorem, if you recorded at 48 kilohertz, you would be able to reproduce frequencies up to this: 16 kilohertz, 22 kilohertz, 24 kilohertz, 48 kilohertz. All right, so it looks like we got some 3s and 2s. Final answer, guys. What's the final answer? 48 divided by 2, that's right. Number 3. Using ratios of 10 to 1 or greater with this is known as compression, gating, limiting, or none of these answers. If we're doing something with a ratio of 10 to 1, limiting. A compressor set to above 10 to 1 would be defined as a limiter. Signal flow is often represented by the following stages: capture, store, and send, monitor, line, and mic. Capture, store. I've never heard these terms or question in this way. It's got to be option 2, right? Capture, store, and send. Capture, store, and monitor. It's not line and mic. I don't know what they mean by this at all. No, we got it wrong. Yeah, so the answer here was monitor. It's okay. We got one wrong. We got one wrong in the last, in the previous sites quiz. Also known as a lossy file. MP3, WAV, AIFF, or none of these. Which of these is a lossy file format? 1, 1, 1, 1. Yeah, MP3 is a lossy format. Layering of tracks, lead vocals, and solos generally take place during this stage of the recording process. Overdubs, mixing, mastering, or setup. Overdubs is the only logical answer here. A mix of sounds with lots of effects is said to be wet, dry, organic, or none of these. Yeah, wet. Wet is the term. It's wet with effects. So just a sound's envelope consists of 4 components: attack, decay, sustain, and reverb, release, delay, or hold. Auxes are typically used for headphones, monitors, effects, or all of these. This bot keeps making me check if I'm muted. I know I'm not muted this time. I'm going to say all of these. I could see situations where all of these are being used. Headphone sends to the people in the live room, or for yourself if you want a different mix from your main mix. in the headphones. Monitors, exactly the same thing, just a different thing connected. Effects, yeah, we're using auxes for sends. Auxes are like buses, but aux is the send to those things and all of these. So yeah. Frequencies below 80 hertz are known as subs, mids, highs, or treble. This is... Come on. Give me a hard one. That's what she said. Close miking an instrument results in a sound that is tight, primarily, direct path, in your face, or all of these. What? This is nonsense. Close miking an instrument results in a sound that is in your face. That's what I would go with this. Direct is weird. Sound that is primarily. Primarily what? Close mic is more likely to have proximity effect as a problem. You don't usually need to close mic an instrument. You should have some space between. So proximity effect is often an issue. The further away you are, the more room sound you get, the more interference from other instruments, if that's the case. Yeah, in your face is just like an unnatural closeness. The signal processing tool helps control the dynamic range, delay, reverb, compression, or EQ. Which one of these affects dynamics? Only compression. If a room has parallel surfaces, it likely has room modes, standing waves, acoustic issues, or all of these. If a room has parallel surfaces, like most rooms, likely to have room modes. Room modes is like certain frequencies kind of build up and you get a boost at the walls and you get dead spots in the middle of the room or multiple places within the room. Standing waves are essentially the same description. Acoustic issues, that's just general. So we're going to go with all four of these. Yeah. It's kind of three ways to say the same thing. There's actually a great website. Mode calculator. All right, so let's say we've got a room that is in feet. We've got a typical like 9 foot by 12. That's fine. With what's standard? 8-foot ceilings. 8-foot ceilings is standard. All of these notes here. So if your room, the main acoustic issue you would have would start at this frequency. And so these red ones are the, they'll be the sidewall room mode, which is, what do you call it? Axial mode. There's axial, tangential, and I'm not seeing the words here. Axial, tangential, and oblique modes. So axial is like your sidewalls, a sound bounces between left and right, and it gets amplified by the walls, and there's a dead spot in the center. Axial can also be like the floor and ceiling dimensions. Tangential is when there's similarities between 3 of the surfaces. I think I'm correct with that. And then oblique is like they're always weaker, but they can still be a problem when combined with the axial modes, stuff like that. Which does this sort of thing here. Like if that frequency divides like exactly right with your dimensions, the waveform just has a complete dead spot in the center of the room. If it's divided by 4, then you'd have 2 dead spots and you'd have a boost right in the center. And so with the blue and the red here, that's what that looks like. Or if you have a boost, that's like that. So if we go back here, this website's wonderful. If you put in your exact dimensions for your room, you can play the signal generator and hear that exact issue. And then you can walk around and see if there is actually a completely dead spot. Or if you stand near a wall, you can hear if it's like 6 dB louder, things like that. It's so important. There's also this thing called the bolt area, where there's like this ideal dimensions for a room to have ideal acoustic treatment or the minimal acoustic issues just from the construction of the room. And so this room sits outside of that. So we'd have to make the walls, let's say 11. No, have to make one of these would have to be larger. 13, 11. No, I keep making it further out. There's this perfect ratio that if you're within this range, you're going to have the least of the axial modes. If this is our room, a 9 by 12 by 11 room, we're going to have the main issue at 46.8 hertz, which is extremely low and difficult to treat. But also, every octave of this, every time you double the frequency, it's going to be it's also going to be an issue. So there's an axial mode at 46.8. There's an axial mode at 62. And if we double that, we've got 93 and 102. Every doubling will be also an issue. But if you can treat that primary issue, like the 46 hertz one, then it's going to treat all of the ones above that. All the ones above the lowest are the easiest ones to treat. So basic broadband absorption in the room will handle a lot of those things. But these are like the residences of the room. That's what a room mode is. Super important stuff to know about. MIDI stands for Music in Digital Industry, Musical Instrument Design Interconnect, Music in Digital Instruments, Musical Instrument Digital Interface. Yeah. I was going through quizzes this morning and last night, and I kept running into quizzes that had obvious errors. What does MIDI stand for? There's no right answer on this quiz. So, yeah, didn't want to do that one. It's Musical Instrument Digital Interface, of course. The first method of recording and playback sound is credited to this man: Thomas Edison, Evan Brooks, Tom Dowd, or Bill Putnam. Anyone recognize these names? Thomas Edison, Evan Brooks, Tom Dowd, and Bill Putnam. So Bill Putnam started Universal Audio. Thomas Edison, of course, the light bulbs and alternating current and all that kind of stuff. Evan Brooks, I don't recognize that name regarding audio recording. Tom Dowd, I do also recognize the name, but I don't know what he did. I'm going to have to go with Thomas Edison for this one. He was definitely involved with audio recording. This can happen naturally with a group of strings and make it sound and can make instruments appear more in tune. Compression, slap back echo, distortion, and chorus. This can happen naturally with a group of strings and can make instruments appear more in tune. Yeah, chorus is the answer they want. I would say chorus makes things sound less in tune, but is the only thing related to pitch here, tuning, etc. Which is not a transducer type: condenser, cardioid, ribbon, or dynamic. Everyone know what a transducer is? Transducer converts energy from one form to another, from a voltage to sound, from sound to a voltage. Cardioid is the only one that is a property of a transducer, but not a transducer itself. Ribbon is a dynamic type, but different ways. Different ways of building a dynamic transducer. So which is not considered transducer? That's going to be cardioid. We can only put one answer there. Cycles per second is commonly referred to as amplitude, phase, envelope, or frequency. Pressure to volts like piezo, yeah. Cycles per second, of course, that is frequency. We're on question 23, so almost done. If two sound waves are in phase with each other, the general result is decreased amplitude, increased amplitude, or nothing changes. Two waves in phase with each other, what happens? Jason says 2, increased amplitude. Midi Man says no, they cancel out. 2, more amplitude from Pat and Andy. This is increased amplitude. This is like we talked about with balanced cables. Two signals that are the same, no time delay, no phase shift, they increase in volume. EQ slope is also referred to as effects, gain, Q, or mid-range. We talked about this before. We're going to just jump right to the next question. This pickup pattern does not exhibit proximity effect and tends to have the most environment in the sound. We talked about proximity effect. We talked about polar patterns. Does anyone remember which one does not have proximity effect? Cardioid, omnidirectional, figure 8, or none of these? Which one of these is not directional? Proximity effect only happens with directional pickup patterns. Cardioid, omnidirectional, figure 8, none of these. The correct answer is omnidirectional. Figure 8 actually has almost double proximity effect compared to the other microphone, the other polar pattern types. Omni is the only one without proximity effect, where you would normally get a bass boost with a cardioid mic. So we got one wrong. What was the wrong one again? The signal flow, yeah. Capture, store, and monitor. That's super weird. Without reading the chapter, that made no sense to me. I was trying to figure out a signal flow diagram, and I don't remember ever seeing the words like capture and store. Okay, so there is a Reaper script called JS_track effects grouping. This is what I want to cover today. Let's start off with the problem that this solves. So let's say we've got a compressor. Let's say Comp FET 76. This is a 1176 style compressor. I'm going to put this on track 1 and 2. And so if we want to make changes to these, we'd have to, make those changes individually or through various means like by MIDI linking. So I would take the input parameter, go to parameters, MIDI link, make a 14-bit MIDI link, and have a parameter that would receive that from a controller. It's not an easy way to set things up, right? So if you want to have multiple channels of compression, distortion, anything really, where it's split across multiple channels, and you want each channel to have independent effects, but also be linked together. So you only have to tweak one EQ or one gate or one whatever it is. There's no easy way to do that until we get to a script. So Julian Sater has this this script, which is in the reteam scripts folder, provides grouping of track effects. When the script starts, it will detect tracks that are grouped by VCA or any other controls as customized in the script's user area. It will then continue running in the background. Any changes to the track effects of grouped tracks will be propagated to similarly named effects in other tracks in the same group. The color scheme in this editor drives you nuts? Yeah. I was thinking the same thing because I actually copied all of this text into Apple Notes, but I can actually change this as well. Rescript. IDE colors. I think this is better. You group the tracks together, and then plugins that have the same name will be controlled together. Reaper's built-in track grouping does not have effects as something that can be controlled through grouping. Other DAWs do have that. Pro Tools has a pretty good system for that, for example, and I don't know about the other DAWs, but Pro Tools definitely does. The script can detect and propagate changes that are made directly in the effects UI, also values that are being recorded to track envelopes of effects parameters. If the envelope of a track parameter is in read mode, it will override rescript provided values, so changes cannot be propagated to such parameters. Okay, so read mode will override touching this the thing manually. You'd want to write into both tracks at the same time. Propagated values are also relative to the original values in each effects. So for example, it's a parameter in effects track 1 has an original value of 10 when the script starts. The same parameter of an effect in track 2 has an original value of 5. The script will move track 2 effects to 2.5 when the user moves track 1 effects to 5. So you can do relative changes, which is pretty neat. The script is only active while Reaper's own track grouping is enabled. If track grouping is disabled or re-enabled, the script will reload all effects parameter values. Holding down Shift while adjusting an effect's fader overrides grouping and sets a new baseline value for that effect instance. While the script is running, it will try to detect any changes to track grouping and to effects chains, such as adding effects or copying effects chains. Unfortunately, this is not always reliable. For example, if the track is removed from a group and then added back immediately, the script will not realize that the track has been added back again. So there's some caveats here, but overall, it does seem pretty good. And they also recommend setting up a toolbar button for this, so I'll do just that. Click on Add Action, add this button, and then rename this text icon FX group, I guess. And use the original as a tooltip. And oh well, I've just ruined the look of my toolbar. So yeah, I've got a button here that will enable that script, and it will show when it is running. So how do we group these together? By default, it's going to be the VCA group function. So we can right click, track grouping parameters, and then we've got a group here. So we can set this to VCA lead and VCA follow. That should work just like that. So run this script, which is just tapping that button in there. And now when I adjust one of these parameters, it should it, for some reason, didn't do that one, but maybe because it was already modified. There we go. Now they're synced. And I can do that from the controller. Yeah, so I can even do it from the XTouch, which is pretty cool. So all those parameters are automatically linked now to the same effects on other tracks, and I can still independently change something by holding down Shift and moving it. So can I do Shift and... Yeah, Shift even works with the controller, which is not a common thing. So once I get them all down to the bottom, do they move? So sometimes they get out of sync, which is not ideal, but let's do this again with do the kilohertz filter. Why did the track color change? I don't know. Okay, so filter on 2 tracks, and I can adjust the cutoff, and they move together. And I can adjust the Q, and can I adjust the filter type? Yes, it just doesn't want to from the controller. But mouse clicks. Yeah, so this could be like each guitar has its own high pass filter instead of one on the bus. So do you have to set this up each time you start Reaper? You could set this up automatically. Just have this run as a startup action. Step by step, again, to do this is I run this, terminate instance. All right, so you start with 2 tracks or more. Select them both. Right click, track grouping parameters, and you just want to set these to VCA lead and follow. I'm not sure if you need both of those. These are the ones that you're least likely to use on your own, or outside of these other functions. So VCA lead is the one that we'll use here. I can see the polarity flip might be another option if you're already using VCAs. But if you're not using VCAs in your workflow, and I'm not, then this is a good way to do it. So set that to close. They're both in group 1. Now we can add some effects. So there is, I just added re-EQ to both of these. You don't even have to have the track selected. I'm just going to hit this group effects. Oh, the script crashed. So I did run into this issue a couple times, but let's try selecting and then running. Is it running? Huh. Now it doesn't want to work, of course. Now that I'm like recording it as if it's a video, now it doesn't work. Yeah, it was working. Now it's working. Can we do presets? Almost. Start with the same preset. But yeah, we can control that on 2 effects windows at the same time with a MIDI controller or with a mouse. Pretty sweet. Not having to worry about automation lanes. Often, if I wanted to do something like that, I would have to do it on one channel, usually monitoring in mono. And then once I get the settings right, I would just copy it to the next track. This thing almost works perfectly, but there's a couple of errors when you launch it, and sometimes when, sometimes they get out of sync. But that action, again, was called JS Track Effects Grouping. If you have Repack, you already have this. You should check it out. How do you set it up on startup? Good question. Search for startup. I did do a video on this, but we'll go through it real quick. Startup. So this is my startup action. Load track view number 1, change transport theme element background color according to ripple state, and global sampler. I do that. I copy the selected command ID. I find set global startup action. I run that. Hit yes. You paste in that command ID. Hit OK. And you can also show project and global startup actions. So screen set load window set 1 is defined as project startup action. Custom startup is defined as global startup action. Project startup action runs every time I load my template or new project. So that's just set into my default template. But the global one runs the first time you run Reaper. Doesn't run again on each project load. I did do a video explaining this in more detail. I got a drum sample pack from a friend of mine, Vulture Culture. This sample pack. This is what do you call it? Drum hits from a Kawai R53, which is a classic drum machine known for its sound and character. It's processed, turned down, manipulated within the actual device. And so this is a drum sample library. And this is like ideal for like retro industrial, KMFDM, 9 Inch Nails, that sort of stuff. Pretty affordable. I liked it. Quick work on a project using these quick demo project. That's what I'm trying to say. Demo project that I started but didn't really make much progress on using just these sounds, I think. That was a couple loops. There's some cymbal loops here. Kick loops. Some of my favorite sounds are these slaps. Although I did bit crush and filter those. And these laser sounds I love. And orchestra hit. Which is just fun. Just for a bit of fun. And he also provided some baseline loops from Paul Levok's Russian analog synth. And then with effects. Which I think is pretty cool. I might actually adjust that filter with the wet. I want a little bit more of the highs to come through. Hey, there he is. What are the chances? Yeah, I really like this sample pack. I was watching a bit of your live stream. I missed it live, but halfway through the Omnisphere thing you were doing the other day, as I was cleaning up my studio. Very cool stuff. I don't know. I just started a demo the day that I had bought this. You just have that one like short video, right? Did you do any video demonstrating it or anything on your channel yet? It's very fun. I should just set up a database for this. I was thinking of importing it into XO or something. Actually, what I'm really tempted to do is get a Volca sample and just load in your sounds into here. You have a video going up next Friday. So you got the MIDI Verb 2 video coming up or stream coming up, and then a separate video. Cool. So I'm thinking of getting these because they're pretty cheap. $120 Canadian. And if it only does these industrial sounds, maybe that's all I need. But I've heard that these can be a pain. There's the version 2 of it has a USB port on it, so it's easier to get the sounds into it. This can probably hold the entire sample pack, which is, if we get rid of if we don't use the loops, then should be able to get all of that stuff in there. I'm going to get a Behringer Edge anyways, honestly. I saw the Behringer Edge announced, what was it, last week? I saw a bunch of videos about the Behringer Edge. It's not for sale anymore, or yet, here. Yeah, there's no Behringer Edge available yet. I plan on getting a Behringer Edge. Absolutely. It looks excellent. And like, the price is $200 US. It sounds very, very close, but it's got MIDI in and out. So it's like instantly more usable. I think there's a couple other good things about it. Last week I was using the Mavis in the exact same style of how I would want to use the Edge or DFAM, but it's so much more clunky to do that, and I didn't have a way of actually gating, like have silent beats. So yeah, $199 list price is crazy. Yeah, what do you think? Like, get a Volca sample with these industrial drums. You can see I've been shopping for drum machine. I cannot decide on what to get. Like, it's the hardest decision of my life. Vocal sample, I see so many people trying to sell them, and that's what makes me not want to get it. It seems like it's pretty limited, and getting sounds onto it may be an issue. But I don't have a lot of needs for it, really. This, the R5 sound looks very interesting. The RX7 looks very interesting. I think the RX7 looks wonderful. So many different pads. Who knows if the programming sucks on it, though. It has a few separate outputs. A cassette port. This one has separate outs, which is pretty cool. It's RX5. I think is I don't know. This one's got multi-outs. The RX7 doesn't. Also has volume controls for each output. So it seems like it's much more playable. It's hard to tell how big this is. It seems pretty big. It's like 12 jacks on the back. I don't have space for the gear that I currently have, but it doesn't make me not want this a lot. This is a lot of money, though, honestly. When I've got Addictive Drums, XO, and a dozen other software instruments that I don't take the time to use. Why am I looking for a retro drum machine? I don't know. There's a lot of Volca samples for sale right now. Some of them version 1, some of them version 2. This is a version 2. And the only difference is this USB port on the top. Or the color is slightly different as well. And the difference in price is like $50. Programming the R53 is not fun. Yeah, but now that you've got the samples, what are you using to sample to program instead? Satala and Mega Baby. Nice. Cool. New database. This is Diodes and Rust. Are you going to do more sound libraries? You have a lot of synths. It might be worth doing more of those. Yeah, I saw Satala was working on an update. There was a Twitter little tweet. They said soon. So M1 compatibility, slight reshaping to the UI. People want it to actually sample as well. It doesn't look like they've added that. But otherwise, it looks pretty similar to Satala, or as it is now. It's one of my few bridged plugins I still have here. I think the new layout's better. I don't really know what people want in terms of a synth sample library. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I put out some sample libraries and I didn't really get much feedback on it. So I don't really know. If anyone's a YouTube member or a Patreon person, hopefully you've downloaded your sample libraries. I'd love some feedback on that stuff. There's Crashbox. There is drum synth sounds, which was made from the Minilog. Where is it? That's not even the right window I'm looking in. Where is it? Synth drums. Well, to be honest with you, I put these out as a Patreon exclusive thing, hoping that people would sign up for the Patreon to get them, and no people did. So, I mean, it's a nice bonus for those people if they care. Yeah, I mean, I use them a lot. I use these sounds a fair amount in my production, so I'm glad you like them. It was basically like I put it out hoping that people would sign up for the Patreon with like this cool new unique sound thing, and then no one did. That was the scheme anyways. It is past the normal time when we usually end the stream, so thank you so much. Thanks for doing these audio engineering quizzes with me. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to try to make one with ChatGPT, possibly. As always, leave questions, comments, stuff like that. I'd love to read your questions and comments and have you guys here for the stream. And who knows, maybe I'll have a new little drum machine next week or something. But no plans for the stream other than a quiz thing next week. Check out the recent posts on the Reaper blog, sign up for the newsletter, become a patron, get some sample library stuff, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for being here.